Husband of 11 years was with another woman while I delivered our 34-week-old baby on 6/5 who was in the NICU. 3 kids together. I just found out. Was told about this sub so cross-posting. Too long, didn't read the title, says it all. My so has been a distant partner for years. We have 2 kids at home. And I was pregnant with our 3rd. It's been a very tough pregnancy. Every time I was admitted to the hospital during this pregnancy, he wouldn't come. I drove myself to the emergency room and drove myself home. I took myself to my doctor appointments. Tuesday of last week at 34 weeks pregnant I was admitted for high BP but allowed home for 24 hours and told to come back for tests the next evening. Husband had planned to go out of town. I asked him not to go, but he went in anyways. Wednesday I was admitted. I told him nothing. I called him Thursday saying he needed to come home. They're going to have to deliver the baby. I'm really sick. He was golfing. He said he would leave that evening. He claimed he fell asleep for 5 hours on the way back in a gas station, but should have made it to the hospital by 1 a.m. that night. Friday still no husband. He got there maybe 2 hours before the baby was born at 1:38 p.m. and left after. They took my sweet tiny boy away immediately to the NICU. Terrifying. I saw so maybe twice while I was in the hospital. He came twice. That's it. He's never been a very supportive partner, so while I was hurt I didn't think more of it. I was in too much shock at all that had transpired. Sunday morning I was in the NICU and couldn't get a hold of him. I checked the monitor and my 18-month-old was still in her crib. He slept in and left her for 3 hours in her crib waiting. I had to call the neighbors to go wake him up. He left the hospital at 12:30 a.m. but apparently didn't go home until about 3 a.m. that night. So I asked to be released home early from the hospital so I could care for my kids at home. That first night home, he left soon after I got home to see the baby in the NICU. Or so he said. I woke up at 3 a.m. No husband. No text. No call. Finally got a hold of him. He claimed he slept a bit in his car at the hospital and went to get food. Each night was like that. Coming home at 3, 4 a.m. Not responding to texts. Not home during the day. Showering and shaving and working out before the NICU. I just didn't want to believe something was up. Thursday morning he was still asleep. And I went in to try to wake him up. And saw his phone. It was unlocked. I don't know what made me do it. I've never looked at his phone before. But I looked and it was all right there. Texts between him and her. Telling each other I love you. Him calling her baby. Him complaining about me asking him to pick up my antibiotics for my kidney infection or how I had him doing errands. He misses her. Can't wait to see her. I woke him up and asked him if at night when he claimed he was at the NICU, if he was with her and he said yes. I asked him if he was going to keep seeing her or not and he wouldn't answer me. He claimed he's been miserable the last 8 years of our 11 years of marriage. It's all my fault. I didn't show him I loved him enough. I didn't have sex with him enough. I don't take responsibility or apologize. So I asked him to leave. He packed his things. I assume he is staying with her. I've taken him to couples counseling because I was so unhappy and wanted to make things better. How did he never mention how unhappy he was all those times? I wanted a partner. I wanted someone to be collaborative and kind. And I got shut down for years. But I was okay to tough it out because the idea of breaking up my family was too painful to even consider. I've met her. She knew everything going on. What kind of person cheats while their pregnant wife is sick and in labor? Or uses the NICU as their cover story for spending the night with someone? And what kind of woman is okay with that? She has 4 young kids. She lives less than 2 miles from me. My heart is broken. I know he was never a good partner or parent, but I didn't want this. I tell myself he is doing me a favor in the long run, but I feel like hell. I can't stop crying. I'm scared and sad, and I'll have to tell our 8-year-old, and I just can't even fathom all of the unknowns. My little man is coming home today from the NICU. He just hit 5 pounds. He's a preemie. I'll be a single mom to 3 kids. And I'm so scared. I could manage if I didn't feel so emotionally distraught. I wasn't prepared for baby at all because I thought I had more time. Now I'm scrambling to order diapers and onesies and duck I don't even know. So wants to come to the hospital and put him in my car, and I'm dreading it. I don't want to see him, but I'm afraid if I'm not amicable he will fight me for the kids. I'm meeting with a divorce attorney on Tuesday, figuring out how to tell my oldest. He wants to do a therapy session, but I don't think I can sit there and listen to him tell me again how it's my fault he's leaving and it's too fresh. I don't know. I'm full of panic and anxiety and I feel like death. My birthday is Wednesday. I'll be 34. I have no family in the state I live in. I don't know who I am anymore. The only silver lining is I am financially stable. I have a good job with a company I've been with for 10 years. I bought our house, both names are on it, but I have documentation proving the funds came from me. I've always kept our finances separate because he isn't good with money. My IRA and savings should stay mine, I hope. He has no retirement, no savings. I believe he has been hiding money, but I figure the attorneys will work that out. Duck, how is this my life? And how do you survive that impossibly deep, gut-wrenching pain that comes in overwhelming waves, even if you know in the end it's the right thing? I see those ducking texts over and over in my mind and I wish I could make them go away. Update. Met soon-to-be ex-husband at the hospital on the day of baby's release from the NICU. Was my first time seeing him since D-Day. He was angry, cold, wedding ring off. I started shaking when I saw him. Such an intense visceral response. He helped put baby in my car. We spoke for a moment. He was paranoid, asking if I told the nurse about what was happening because she seemed cold to him. Did I tell our neighbor's friends, caring more about his image than whether I needed support, which is typical. I explained that yes, I told my friend neighbor because I can't do this alone. I felt guilty nonetheless. He left, and I took our baby home to meet his sisters. I offered him the opportunity to go to baby's first pediatric appointment, or to take the girls to a birthday party, but he declined. Said he was going out of town. I did not hear from him again until my birthday, the 17th of this month, when he decided he wanted to FaceTime our 2 older kids. Of course he chose my birthday to reach out. He informed me he would be coming to see them for Father's Day, and intended to spend the day at our house, all day. As we haven't told our oldest yet what is going on, she thinks he is out of town on business. This meant playing happy family for the day. And I'm ashamed I wasn't strong enough to tell him all day didn't work for me. I'm still even now afraid of making him mad. Sick. I made it through. I suggested he take the girls for donuts the next day so that he wouldn't be in the house while seeing them. And he took our oldest to an orthodontist appointment. He then went out of town again, and has called once on FaceTime to see the girls. He still hasn't offered to drop off diapers, food, nothing. He has simply abandoned his kids. He claims it's too painful to see the kids but duck. That's what we do as parents. We man up and put the kids first. I guess for me it's another blessing because I'm seeing how selfish he is again and again. I hurt for the kids, though. He hasn't asked about our new baby. Seems to ignore the fact that he even exists. When he was here for Father's Day, I asked if he wanted to change his diaper or feed him so he could have some time with him. He didn't seem interested. I've met with an attorney and meet with another one today. STBX continues to sit on the fence saying he doesn't know what he wants, but I'm not waiting for him. He continues when we do interact to blame me and tell me it would take a monumental effort on my part to prove how much I love him for him to stay insanity gaslighting. He says he cheated because he was sure I was no longer in love with him. He spins it so that it's constantly my fault, and I've been so conditioned by the abuse over the years that my knee-jerk reaction is to apologize and agree. The guilt sits heavily upon my shoulders even though I know it's neither real nor justified. I've attempted to be pretty much no contact with him because when I do engage, I spin out and I've got to be able to stay strong for my kids. He says he has not contacted the AP and is putting that to the side for now to work out what he wants. Whatever. I have no clue if that's true. And it doesn't actually make any difference. I've been meeting with my therapist twice a week, and started working with a trauma therapist as well. So much of my reaction to what has happened in my behavior in engaging with him is related to past trauma. And I'm having a very PTSD response to everything, highly anxious, adrenaline pumping, can't eat, can't settle. I'm very much hopeful that the trauma therapy will help greatly and help me move through this in the healthiest way possible. I lost my father, my secure attachment, suddenly when I was 12. And then my husband, who became my secure attachment regardless of how unhealthy it was leaving, suddenly has triggered all of that past trauma. Which I think is why I've felt so horrible mentally that it's been hard to function. My little preemie man is doing great. Has gained almost a pound in a little over a week. I'm pumping every 2 hours as he cannot yet nurse due to his age and size, but working with a lactation consultant to get him there. My middle kiddo is just 19 months and is needing mommy 24/7, which has been wonderful but also hard when I have 2 that both need me in a big way. My oldest has been incredibly helpful, but I also don't want her to stop being a kid and feel like she has to stand in as an adult, so I'm trying to ensure she gets to play as much as possible. She continues to think dad is out of town, which I guess is true for now. I'm lining up a call with a child psychologist to get some guidance on how to approach this, and to ensure I have therapy for her if needed. So I'm still here, taking it 1 second at a time when I feel like I can't breathe and am going to collapse from the grief and sadness. But I'm also seeing more and more who he truly is and understanding why I felt that I couldn't leave all those years, even knowing that how he treated me and the kids was unacceptable. I try not to think farther than an hour ahead. If I start picturing the future, I become so overwhelmed. One thing I find myself struggling with is this ridiculous notion of wanting to take him back simply so that the AP can't have him. I realize he isn't a possession, and that statement makes it sound like he is, but I don't know how else to phrase it. Anyone else had those feelings? And advice on how you handled it? Please leave this horrible man as soon as possible. Use the fantasy land he is living in to get the best possible divorce settlement. Launch your contact with him to an app for co-parenting and get in counseling. He is not worthy of you. Any man who would do this while his wife has a preemie is beneath scum. I am so sorry he lied about who he was. I hope things get better soon. This comment right here. Get him to sign an agreement fast so that he can be with his affair partner. Do it while he will not care what the terms are. You should check out the Chumplady blog. Discuss everything with your lawyer because state laws look at things differently than how human beings might. He could legally be entitled to equity in your home or money paid into your retirement during the marriage. If he figures that out, he could make your divorce go on for 3-5 years. So I hope I don't sound like a weirdo, but I made a post about not taking COVID seriously a while back and you commented about your husband not wearing a mask, despite you being pregnant. I just want to say I'm so sorry you're going through this now. That whole man is absolute trash. I can't imagine how awful it feels right now, but you'll be better off in the future. Be gentle with yourself and please remember none of this is your fault. Wow, talk about a small word. All the Reddit subs and here we are. Yeah, that was me. Ironically, his new lady doesn't believe in social distancing based on her FB posts. I just feel like such ducking hell. And he's mad at me, which is such a mind duck. Second story. Caught my new housemate sleeping on my bed without my permission and she says I'm the one disrespecting her. Sorry, this story is gonna be long. Please bear with me. Back in July, I began renting a room that would be closer to my new workplace. It was a 3-bed 3-bath house and 2 tenants would be leaving. One of the tenants, let's call her Regina, would continue living downstairs until the end of the year. I had the chance to speak with Regina on the phone to talk about house rules and breakdown of bills utilities. One of the most important rules she told me was that we weren't allowed to have boys stay overnight. She explained how she is married and that because of her beliefs culture, she is not comfortable with having other men stay overnight in the house. I told her I respected her beliefs and asked if it was okay if I had my BF, friends, or even my family come over just to visit or to help me move my things into the house. She told me that it was okay with her to have my BF and male's friends come over as long as I told her beforehand that they would be visiting. I then explained to her that even though I would not physically be there or move in until August, I am still paying for rent starting July because I don't want to lose my spot in the house. Fast forward to beginning of August. I decided to take a bed I bought at IKEA to the house and have my BF help me build it. I made sure to let Regina know earlier that day and updated her when I was close to the house. Meeting her in person for the first time went by smoothly and she even gave us snacks, drinks as refreshment while we were building my bed. Before leaving, I wanted to lock my room door, but noticed that the previous tenant forgot to leave me the keys to my room. I decided to just ask my landlady for a spare key next time I see her and left the house. 2 days after, I had an hour new hire appointment at my work, so I thought it would be good to drop off some stuff into the house since I would be in the area. Again, I asked my BF to come with me. We decided to stop by the house first before heading to my workplace. This time around, I texted Regina 5 minutes before arriving to the house, which I understand I should have informed her way earlier. We open the front door and the first thing we see is an air mattress blocking the door. After pushing it aside, we see an absolute mess in the living room common area. It literally looked like a tornado flew in the room. We see food, clothes, and trash all over the floor, table, and couches. Then when we walk up the stairs to go to my bedroom, we find my door completely wide open with someone sleeping on my bed back facing me and a bunch of stuff scattered or hanging in the room. I didn't feel comfortable walking in there even though it was my own room. I felt so shocked and disgusted that I ran downstairs to see if Regina was in her room. I walk towards her room and find her bedroom door wide open and see someone else on her bed, which I assumed to be her mother or grandma. I try asking her where Regina was and she says in broken English, "Sorry, I don't speak English." So I take out my phone and call Regina. Not a second later, I hear a phone ringing from upstairs. I quickly try to walk upstairs, but Regina pops her head out before I could completely go up the stairs to my room. I then noticed that the shirt Regina was wearing was the same shirt the stranger that was sleeping on my bed was wearing. Turns out she was the one in my room and sleeping on my bed. She tells me to wait downstairs cause she is not wearing anything else besides her shirt, and since my BF is here, she is not comfortable walking downstairs to talk to us. I patiently wait and then I hear a door upstairs close shut. Regina then calls me on the phone and says I can go upstairs now. All the stuff that was in my room was gone and moved into the room next door. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to confront her right away since I was going to be late to my appointment at work if I stayed. After my hour appointment, I gave my landlady a call and told her everything that happened. She told me that what Regina did was unacceptable and disrespectful since she violated my privacy. I asked her if it was okay that I change my door lock entirely and that I could give her the spare key afterwards. She said yes, and so my BF and I drove to Home Depot to buy a new lock and screwdriver to assemble it. We even bought Lysol spray and Clorox wipes to disinfect my room and bed. COVID still exists, guys, so better safe than sorry. When we got to the house, Regina and the family member were nowhere to be found. We quickly changed the door lock and disinfected my room. The landlady's husband then came over to pick up the spare key to the new lock we installed. Before leaving, I made sure to lock my room door this time. An hour later, when I got back home, I called Regina to talk about the incident. However, Before I could say anything she says, hear me out and let me explain myself first. I let her talk. She starts off saying how she was scared that she would be alone in the house. So she called her mom to stay with her to keep her company and to help clean the house since the previous tenants apparently left the house messy dirty. She then says her grandma also came, but suddenly got pneumonia and so they had to take her to the hospital to get treated. Late at night, she explained how she got back to the house early at 2 a.m. And since her grandma was recovering, Regina told her grandma to sleep on her bed while she went to my room to sleep on my bed. She then said, after hearing my reasons and knowing that it was an emergency, I appreciate it if you would be flexible and understanding of my situation. I then expressed how I felt sorry about her grandma's situation and that I hope she recovers well, but shared how I felt disrespected and shocked that she did not even consider asking me for permission to go into my room and sleep on my bed, especially when we are still living in a pandemic. She butts in before I could say anything else and says, well, all you had in there was your bed and you weren't gonna move in until later anyways. I explained to her how I've been paying for rent since July and that technically I can move in whenever I wanted to. I also told her that she could have slept in the living room and that I saw an air mattress in the house that she could have slept on. Regina continued to make excuse after excuse, and so I told her that this could never happen again and I just wanted to hear her say sorry because of how violated and disrespected I felt. She then says, what do you want me to do? Pay for a new mattress or bed? I can give you money if that's what you want. I completely lost it here. I told her I didn't want her money and that I just wanted to hear a genuine apology from her. She then complains how I disrespected her by bringing my BF over without letting her know beforehand. She says how she's so flexible and that her husband doesn't even want any males coming into the house regardless if they are there just to visit or help move things in. I tell her that my understanding of her rule was that guys weren't allowed to sleep overnight and that visiting was okay if I let her know beforehand. She complains texting 5 minutes before is too late of a notice. I apologize to her and tell her that it was wrong on my part that I didn't let her know way earlier that I was coming by with my BF. Regina then says, okay, so since you made a mistake and I made a mistake, let's call it even. I tell her that I haven't even heard an apology from her yet, and then she says, you're making such a big deal about it and being so rude to me right now. You're so difficult to speak with. I don't want to argue with you anymore. I'm older than you and you shouldn't even be speaking to me this way. At that moment, I said okay, bye, thank you, and hung up. Right after the call ended, I literally cried, because how emotionally draining the call was and the whole situation in general. Am I being inconsiderate for making a big deal out of her being in my room sleeping on my bed? I don't understand why you are giving in to Regina's rules. The landlady is clearly saying the housemates make the rules because there are none and it's up to you guys to try to live in peace with each other. Ultimately, you're renting a room, which is your space to do with as you please as long as it's not directly affecting others. Who is she to say that you having a BF in there is offensive to her? It's none of her business. What is offensive is encroaching on someone's private space which they paid for. Not only that, but she is requiring you to message her if your BF so much as steps foot in the house with notice, while she can just invade your private space without so much as even a sorry. Why are you giving her the time of day? Close down this behavior before you end up paying her part of the rent because you dare to use the kitchen more than her or some shit. Does your landlord know that Regina is trying to make unilateral decisions for a house she doesn't own? Also, she has a husband, but what if you're not comfortable with him around? The hypocrisy. Hit like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing to our channel.